and community. When he's in your city, you won't miss a thing. Just text the number, let your phone ring, 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 ring. 94924. Events, connection, and opportunity, all in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Buy for life. 949298290. That's 949298290. Events, connection, and opportunity, all in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Buy for life. 949298290. That's 949298290. Events, connection, and opportunity, all in one place. Come join the community. So text it now. and opportunity. All in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Fight for life. 949298295. That's 9492985.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words, say thank you.
Hello and welcome to Napoleon Hill Institute's Training weekly training. David will be joining us very shortly. He has gotten tied up, and we're looking for a way to undo the knots and get him here. But we're going to be just jumping into this week's training. I am Blaine Bartlett. David and I do this show every week, and we're looking forward to this one. Today's topic is transformational storytelling. And this is going to be an interesting conversation because, how did human beings connect? How do you connect with anything, with anybody? Well, we do it through stories. And the kind of stories that we tell make a difference. We can tell stories that reinforce an existing mindset and existing paradigm and existing way of thinking, or we can begin to craft stories and tell stories that have the intention of transforming the experiences that people have of what's possible. And as you look at the screen here, moving possibility into reality. The way you move possibility into reality is through the use of story. And speaking of story, I'm sure David has got a story about why he's now
Late.
showing up 4 minutes late. There's a transformational
Yeah.
story embedded in this as well. Hey, I've been missing you, buddy. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Technology sometime is unfortunately not working in our favor. And I kept logging in and Gigi seemed to keep kicking me out. I don't know why or how that happened, but
you need to pay her more.
Yes. Or just get rid of her if she wants to be paid more. So either way, I'm fine. I'm far past that part of my career.
There you
go. More importantly, let me grab our training notes today. I want to tell everybody that tomorrow, if anyone's around, I will be in Atlanta, and with Les Brown, and myself, Sinacropi, Dr. Sinacropi, and we have an extraordinary group of people at our mastermind and book launch dinner for Dr. Sinacropi as well. Unfortunately, too, I'm not finding my notes. So if Mike or somebody could resend my NHI notes for the training today so we can get going with that. But if you'd like to be invited or informed, please, it's easy, david@dmeltzer.com, or we have a text community, which is 949, as the jingle stated, 298-2905, 949-298-2905. And as always, blessed to have Blaine Bartlett with me, my mentor coach, my teacher. People ask me all the time who teaches me the stuff that I've learned, and it's the amazing Double B. So we'll get right to it now that I am settled, and welcome everyone to Napoleon Hill's Transformational Storytelling Training. Today, stories are so important, as Blaine was discussing. We don't tell stories simply to explain what happened. We tell stories to help people see what can happen, and we change the way someone thinks, says, believes, feels about what happened, so that it changed their thoughts, perception, and most importantly, their meaning, so that their intentions and behaviors are aligned with that meaning. Perception creates that meaning, and meaning drives that intention, and that intention creates that behaviors. And of course, if we utilize the clues and patterns of our behaviors, we will already produce the results that we want, or even better. When we tell and can tell someone about a setback that we experienced and how difficult it was, or when we can use the same experience to show them or others what is possible when we change our thoughts, perspective, meaning, intention, and behaviors, we take accountability, responsibility, attraction, participation in this process, and we move forward. The objective of storytelling isn't to become better entertainers. There's plenty of intellectual entertainment out there where you pay all your money, you think your life has changed and nothing transformed, but it is to become better transformers. We use stories to help ourselves accelerate, aggregate, and compound the transformation with what we conceive, believe, and ultimately act on the possibilities, probabilities, and perspective and meaning, intention, and behaviors that we desire. The first lesson, and all of these, by the way, the replay, all of these exercises, guides, lessons are available to you. Just email me, David@dmeltzer.com. David means beloved. @D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. @David, David@dmeltzer.com. So lesson number one is we need to take the nothingness and turn it into a possibility. Most people live their lives like tubes, Blaine, food in, food out. They live in a world of nothingness because they don't understand the difference between nothingness, the drifters of the world, which you're writing your book about, and the 2%ers, the definiteness of purpose that start with possibility. And before we can influence our behaviors, we have to create those possibilities from nothingness. Before someone follows our leadership, buys our product, changes or transforms their behaviors and results, or even believes in themselves, they first have to believe that something different is possible. So, Blaine, instead of beginning our presentation with let us tell you about our company, we may change that around. We might ask, what if the problem we've been trying to solve isn't actually the problem? If we're a car repair company, what if we're not a car repair company? What if the problem we're really trying to solve is that we help people in a time of need? Now we've created curiosity and we've opened the door to new perspectives. What key insight do you have, Blaine, for people that live? You're writing the book about drifters. How do we shift the drift into possibility?
That is a great question, and you're talking about the auto repair business. Our friend Matt comes to mind here.
Yep, Matt Ebert.
Yeah, Matt Ebert. Yeah, the idea of we're not fixing a dent; we're actually creating an experience about living a life fully that is satisfying and generative, and ultimately will be allowing me to thrive. The idea here of creating possibility in people's minds is really important. Most stories, and you alluded to this, most stories, and I've mentioned this right on the front end here, are when people are talking about stories, they're talking about the story of what is right now. What is right now. And it doesn't make room for what's possible in the future, because what is right now doesn't have to be the catalyst for what's possible out there. So yeah, you'll link it to what we're looking at right now and working with. I remember when I was working with Starbucks, I spent about 5 years working with their senior leadership group. And one of the sessions I had with their store development group, we put up the histogram of the tenure that people had in the room with the company. And this went back sometimes for 15 years, sometimes it was 4 years. But what's your experience of the story of the company, the story of this division? And they got it all up there. And it was all, really relevant. It was kind of like, oh, this is where we're coming from. The next step on that was, okay, here's where we say we want to go. What does that make possible for us? And that was the key question. What does it make possible that we wouldn't get to have, do, or be if we didn't have that future state that we could actually begin to organize around? And it was that question of possibility that was individual for people. Well, if we did that, I get to do this, or our team gets to do this, that we wouldn't have access to if we weren't moving in this direction. So moving that possibility into people's minds at a visceral level, it doesn't disabuse them of what they've lived through, but it says, okay, something else is now up. We can actually move in a direction that's not dependent on where we're at.
If you want to be able to, after telling your story, wanting people to believe X or blank is possible, then lead with curiosity instead of information. Define the possibilities out of nothingness before determining which story to tell. And if you'd like the exercise to take yourself from nothingness to shift the drift to possibility, email me, your beloved servant, David@dmeltzer.com. Get the replays, guides, and exercise, even my book, David@dmeltzer.com. Lesson number 2, Blaine, is make the audience the hero. So stop talking to audiences and start listening for what will make the shift from the drift. And one of the biggest mistakes we can make is believing our story is actually about us. Our experiences matter not because they apply to us, because of what they can teach someone else about their own experiences without having to pay the dummy tax. So instead of positioning our successes, look at everything that we've accomplished, we can actually use it to communicate. Here's what I learned by responsibility, attraction, and participation in the perception formula of the thoughts, perception, meaning, intention, and of course, behaviors. And here's what may be available to you. And as we guide and provide the wisdom, share the roadmaps, but creating the audience as our hero, now our stories become transformational, and people can actually not just have a witness consciousness, but an immersive consciousness. How have you been effectively, Blaine, able to make the audience the hero and not make it a narcissistic, self-centered journey of heroic behaviors?
Literally, you invite people to sit in the seat. I was doing a program in Japan with a group of 30 CEOs a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about longevity, just how do we sustain success over life, over the lifespan of our businesses. And I said, guys, I want you to think of something here. What's the oldest hotel? What is one of the oldest hotels in the world? And they went, I have no idea. And I said, well, it's the Nishiyama Onsen in Japan. It's almost 1,300 years old. It's a 1,300-year-old property that has been in the hospitality business for 1,300 years. And it's, generationally, it's in the same family. So I said, I want you to imagine your business 1,300 years from now. What do you need to be positioning today to make that possibility something that you today are proud of launching? Wherever you're at today, if you are going to be around in 1,300 years, what would you want to begin thinking of? How would you want to begin putting your culture together that will sustain that kind of a process? And they sat back in their chairs and went, And I put them into a small group and said, let's talk about that. Just kind of, brainstorm a little bit about that. I couldn't shut them up. They were animated. They were excited. They were just really, looking at this it's a possibility. Now, whether 1,300 years is going to be a reality or not is irrelevant. They got engaged in the idea of generative and generational longevity for their business.
So smart. And if you would like the guide and exercise of how to make an audience a hero, my mentor, Blaine Bartlett, is an expert at both the shift of the drift and making his audiences his hero. Just email me, beloved servant, david@dmeltzer.com. David means beloved. D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. Let me be your beloved servant to help you with the exercises, guides, replays, and books. David@dmeltzer.com. Blaine, the third lesson is how we use struggle to create connection. And struggle is so interesting, especially as being a parent and even a grandparent, I imagine. I was thinking of the things that made me who I am today, my better self. And I listed out 3 things that were extremely difficult. And I said to myself, God allowed that to happen, or maybe he even presented it to protect, promote, love, and perfect me. But would I be willing to bankrupt my kids? Would I be willing to have one of my children molested at 9? Like, would I allow that? And the answer is absolutely not, because I can't imagine, fathom in any world how that would protect, promote, love, and perfect my children. But the truth is, those traumas and traumas like those protect, promote, love, and perfect all of us. And that struggle creates the connection not only to other people, but to God, or to your higher God. And there's no transformation without this tension.
Right.
And we are not wise enough or infinite enough to feel comfortable, whether it's happening to us or wishing it upon somebody else. And so the gap between where we were and where we want to be creates an emotional energy that actually makes a very meaningful story for people. And if we only share the successes at the end of our journey, if all I did was come on and talk about, where I am health-wise, wealth-wise, family-wise, people may admire us in the short term, but struggle to relate to us.
Yeah.
And when we share the mistakes, the uncertainty, rejections, the trauma, adversity, failure, successes, separations, anxieties, resentment, and guilts before we even talk about our success, people now can recognize pieces of their own journey. And it's very rare, Blaine, that people relate to perfection, but they will relate to progress. And struggle often gives transformation meaning. Why is it that so many people are afraid to admit the mistakes and that they were made from them? Instead, they put on a completely unbelievable facade that they live in success and perfection every day, all day long.
Yeah, this is the dilemma of the 20-year-old life coach.
Right. I call them 19-year-olds, but yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, the idea of authenticity is essentially what we're looking at here. People connect with authenticity. They disconnect through certainty. So we connect through vulnerability, we disconnect through certainty. People that are positioning themselves as perfect, they're positioning themselves as a certain facade that they think the public wants to consume. This is what the public looks for. There's no room for people to connect, and it goes back to the previous lesson here. Make the audience the hero. People can identify with struggle. They have difficulty identifying with perfection because they know in their bones that they're not perfect in the sense that that's being portrayed. So authenticity is what I'm left with when I stop trying to manage your perception of me. And when I stop trying to manage your perception of me, now you get me. And you get me with all of my warts. Yeah. And I can tell you the story and you kind of go, oh, tell me more about that. It's like I was fired twice, in a company and didn't find out about it. Never knew about that. I kept showing up to work. And that story has served me very well because I had to struggle through some things. And when the CEO showed up and said, "You're still here," I'm going, why wouldn't I be? Well, I fired you I fired you twice already.
Yeah, the original.
I didn't get the memo.
The original Costanza, but it's so interesting because the structure of these stories surround themselves from what you're talking about, explaining a situation, creating the tension in the struggle, educating on the shift, and then providing the result or the success. And then when we identify the difference between I am and this is what I think people I am, and share enough vulnerability to create that connection without losing the lessons, that is where we create a strong emotional connection with that, which empowers us and empowering others. If you would like to learn that structure of stories, situation, struggle, shift, and stories and success, email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Lesson number 4. Every story has a turning point. It's called a climax. There's an innuation and a diminution, but identifying the turning point is a very important lesson. Every transformational story needs a moment when something shifts, changes, drifts to intention. It may be a decision, failure, conversation, question, realization, could be a relationship, but it represents the moment that we stop simply responding to the reaction to fear and we begin choosing free will to clear the interference between us and the infinite energy, intuition, intelligence, and inspiration that exists. We spend months in blame, shame, justification for poor results in our life, and we use it to justify the conversation that forces us to ask, what are we really defending? What are we really proving? What are we really controlling? And the external situation does not change. The external circumstances, that they don't change, that existed. It's just the meaning or response does. And that decision changes everything that follows. And so turning points are often the moment we move from victimhood to victorhood or accountability. And before the turning point, we react. And after the turning point, we choose. You have empowered so many people to understand the difference between reaction and choosing. For you, what are we looking at, or how are we compensating for our initial reaction to quickly get to prioritization of choice?
And the choice is the key there. I mean, I think of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The reason that that has such long legs, it's been around, and Tolkien wrote that back in, I think, the 40s.
Yeah.
Frodo has this epiphany. He gets to a point where everything is coming at him and he just has to decide. Yeah, I'm not a victim of Sauron, and I'm not a victim here. I actually, there's a choice point, and it's that choice point that literally, as you're talking about it, we move from being reactive to pissed off in one sense. It's kind of like, I'm not going to take it anymore. Now it's mine to do something with. And it's that move moves me out of the victim frame of mind and into the victor frame of mind. I don't know how this is going to come out, but I know that I'm going to take this action now. And it's the hero's journey. I mean, it literally is the hero's journey. And every one of us will have that, and we can all identify in our lives moments where, and they don't have to be huge, but you made a decision. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm not going to go down that path anymore. And we can actually use that as a referent example to inform what we do next as our life begins to move.
That's a good point of identifying that moment of change and what to do next, and believing for that moment that what we changed afterwards into the highlighting of the decisions, the choices, creates the reality, the do it now of a choice, and taking accountability of learning from what we did to be responsible, attracted, and participate in the thoughts, perception, meaning, and intention that we provided. If you would like an exercise guide, a book, if you'd like the replay to identifying those turning points to create release of that tension and teach the lesson, the shift of the turning point, email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Lesson number 5, Blaine. This is one that I think aligns with entrepreneurs of the saying that there's a million great ideas out there, but who's taking it to market? And in other words, there's a million great lessons out there, but what are you doing about it? Are you turning it into a system so that you can be efficient, effective, and statistically successful in those choices that you make, knowing your time and risk tolerance, knowing your perceived value, your bottom line, inspiration or ideas and thoughts without application, they're like steam. It just evaporates. A great story may move us in that intellectually entertaining way, emotionally moving us that, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can. But a transformational story gives us something, a system that we actually can use when the motivation dissipates and the hard work begins. We can tell stories about losing everything and rebuilding like I so often do, but the story becomes more valuable when the audience, the heroes, extract the principles of gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and effective communication. And then showing them how those principles can be applied in the systems, frameworks, and habitual behaviors, practices that help to effectuate going to market, monetization, materialization of the ether. Every story should produce a lesson, and every lesson should produce an action. This is how we move. This is how you move me and millions of other people's from possibility into reality. And nobody, as it states by your name every day, nobody shifts people from possibility to reality like Blaine Bartlett. Talk about why or how people need to take action. They just can't be intellectually entertained.
Einstein said nothing happens until something moves. And
My hero.
that's kind of the gist of it. In some of the leadership work I'll do, I'll have people actually do a leadership lifeline. How did you learn to be a leader? How did you learn about leadership more precisely? And I want the positive and the negative, things that you did that made you feel good, things that you learned that made you feel bad, events in your life that, had plus and minus emotional content to them. So they'll do this lifeline, and as they, identify these little episodic events, I'll say, what's the lesson? There's a leadership lesson here. What's the lesson you pulled from that informs how you are leading today? And how will you utilize that lesson as you try to put this initiative into practice? So it's all about lesson extraction. Everything has a lesson embedded in it, and lessons by definition are always generative. There's something that I can leverage here. I may not have liked what happened. It didn't feel good. And I felt like it destroyed me in one sense, but there's a lesson. There's a lesson that is positive in its intent. Otherwise, it wouldn't be occurring for me. So how do I leverage that lesson? I got to identify it first of all. And then I look for leverage. How do I begin to put it into motion? Not in a big way, little tiny step, incremental piece.
Beautiful. And that framework that Blaine teaches, from possibility to reality, of utilizing story to provide the lessons, but also the framework. And most importantly, he gives you the actions and holds you accountable to those lessons. And when we extract them and utilize them and take action, things start to materialize, monetize in our lives as a reality. The last lesson, Blaine, before I let you take your Q&A session, as I am so grateful you take the time to allow the community to get clarification from my mentor, teacher, and coach, Blaine Bartlett, blainebartlett.com, is the transfer process. Lesson 6. If you'd like the first 5 lessons or this lesson, it's david@dmeltzer.com. David means beloved. D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. Let me be your beloved servant. David@dmeltzer.com. But this transfer, this shift from the drift, the transfer of transformation, the resolution of these stories, the lesson shouldn't simply explain what happened, not what happened to us or others, but it should reveal what is now possible for somebody else. And we can structure the transformation as we experienced, we realized, we changed. But today, we and you can blankety blank. The final transition turns into a personal story, into a shared opportunity. Transformational storytelling moves the me to the we and the we to the you. We share what happened to us, uncover the universal truth, then transfer the truth to the audience. Once again, you can start to feel the community and audience-centric philosophy in the entire training of how transformational storytelling works. We need to apply these frameworks to what people are listening for. And so, Blaine, how can someone apply this lesson to their life immediately today?
Literally, it's by asking the question. When I'm in a training format in a room, and I'll be teaching a lesson about something to do with leadership, as an example, I'll pause and I'll say, okay, I want you to turn to the person right next to you and tell them what I just told you. So they're telling the story. They tell them what I just told you here. So they'll recount this. And I said, now, what I want you to do with that is tell them how you're going to apply what I just told you. And that move from tell them what I just told you to tell them how you're going to apply what I just told you, that's the catalytic move. That takes it from me to we to now action. And I want to have it move into action as quickly as possible. So any major lesson that I want to impart in a training session, that is one of the modalities that I'll actually, always leverage. Tell them what I told you. Tell them how you're going to apply what I told you. And then what does that make possible for you?
If you want the nothingness to turn from possibility to probability, probability to perspective, perspective to intention, to behavior, to reality, his name is Blaine Bartlett. He will be hanging out to answer questions. He's my mentor, coach, and teacher. He sits in a situation I want to be in. He teaches me the steps to get there, but most importantly, he brings out the best in me, shifting the drift to that intention, purpose, passion, and profitability in my life. He is the man with the invitation to clear away the limitations, and he finishes the possibility with a clear invitation to ask. If you would like lesson number 6, david@dmeltzer.com. The facts can inform us, and the stories can inspire us. But the highest level of storytelling combines emotion, meaning, action to create this transformation from nothingness to reality. Our life already contains the stories every day. We simply need to identify the meaning and align them with the divine direction that we desire to accelerate, aggregate, and compound. A story about failure can become a lesson about resilience. A story about rejection can become a lesson about redirection. A story about mentorship can become a lesson about asking for help. The event stays the same. What changes is the meaning, the thoughts, the perception, the intention, and the behaviors we give it, and the possibilities we create, not just for ourselves, but for somebody else. We aren't telling stories merely to communicate information. We're painting possibilities into probabilities, into perspective, and into reality in somebody else's mind, a collective consciousness. So the best storytellers aren't remembered only for the stories that they told, but for the stories they helped other people change about themselves. This is what transformational storytelling is about. If you'd like the replays, the guide, the exercises, the books, the lessons, please let me be your beloved servant. David means beloved. @D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Hope to see you in Atlanta. Please text me to join our text community. Be invited, be informed. 949-298-2905. Surprisingly, still 4 minutes late to give this back to Blaine. I don't know how time works, but it sure entertains me. Blaine, thank you for everything you do. Please reach out to me, david@dmeltzer.com. Enjoy the Q&A session with the incredible Blaine Bartlett. I'll see you soon, my friend.
Okay. Have a good, well, I'll see you tomorrow on office hours.
See you tomorrow on office hours. Peace.
Okay. Peace. Okay. We're going on to the Breakfast of Champions. There we go. Got my mic on. Nick, I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right, Mike here, stepping in for Nick. Obviously, technical difficulty of him being on the road now, but I'm here to step in per usual and here to help. So,
all right.
I'll be queuing up some questions. If you're in the audience there, obviously, please drop in the chat if you want to ask a question or request to join the stage. I'm happy to help you up. We'll be queuing everybody up here in a line, so go ahead and ask to join, get your question answered. Let's start here with Mr. Mark. Great seeing you yesterday, my man at the Mastermind. What question you got for us today?
Likewise, thank you, Mike, and thanks, Blaine. I always appreciate these sessions. You know, I'm kind of in this space where I want to not give a fuck what people think about me, but I also don't want to be a really distasteful person. You know, so I kind of have a two-part question for you. What does it actually look like to stop managing people's perception of you? And can someone consciously try to be authentic and still be inauthentic because we're managing how our authenticity is being perceived?
That's an interesting take on that.
Perfect. Blaine, real quick before you dive into that, can you unmute yourself on Clubhouse?
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, I thought I had already done that. Yeah, well, I'm back. Okay. So, yeah, Marco Antonio. How do I stop? Okay, I'll just kind of, how do I stop managing other people's perception of me? The way that I do that is to actually consider why, how do I want them to feel about themselves when they're in my presence? So I'm going to start with that as a kind of a piece here. I'm not wanting to manage their perception of me. I want to pay attention to what's the experience they're having of, in our conversation. What's the experience that they're having? And if I begin to organize around experience, that begins to change the tone and tenor and the content of how I'm showing up. When I'm considering when the focus is on me, I'm concerned about how they are seeing me. Do they see me as polished? Do they see me as knowledgeable? Do they see me as whatever? That's different than how do I, what's the experience that is important for them to be having in our interaction? I want them to feel as if they're heard. I want them to feel as if they're seen. I want them to feel as if they're valued. I want them to feel as if they matter. That's a different kind of a conversation, and it calls on a different part of me to engage. And I literally have to begin to move outside of my facade in order to accomplish that. I'm always going to have an ego in play. So that's just going to be a given. My egoic self is always going to show up. I want to be in front of it, though. I don't want to have it driving the process. So the question of, how do I want, what's the experience I want them to have of themselves while they're in my presence is a different way of organizing the conversation. Does that help?
I'm a lot to digest, and I'm gonna have to definitely listen to this replay. But yeah, I was thinking, there's just this battle of like, trying to be authentic, but still managing. Like, if we're managing our authenticity, is that really being authentic? Is my question.
Yeah, actually, it is in one sense because it's about conscious awareness rather than unconscious activity. I'm consciously managing, am I being authentic right now? And that forces me, literally, it will force me to drop into an internal exploration. What's going on in here? And is it being expressed out there in a way that's appropriate? Okay, being authentic doesn't mean I just throw the kimono open and you get everything. Being authentic has to do with judicious deployment of the energy that I am in a way that serves where it is that we want to go together, if that makes sense.
Thank you for going deep with me, Blaine. Appreciate it.
You bet, Marco Antonio.
All right, Blaine. I got a question. I'm pulling from IG Live. Obviously, we're live stream across multiple different platforms, so going through the socials and pulling through different questions as well. From IG, one of the questions is: does it make sense, or is it confusing to have an objective in mind when listening to someone for their story? For your story, or does it make sense to have intention when listening to the person, rather than having the objective beforehand, if that makes sense?
If I understand the question, the purpose of every communication, I'll just kind of frame it this way. The purpose of every communication is to produce a result. That's why we communicate with people. That's why we communicate with the floor when we're walking, because the result I want is to get across the room. So there's a communication dynamic that is organized around what's the result that wants to be produced. So, you start with that premise. What's the result that you're trying to produce here? And then kind of secondary and then even tertiary to that is that for the benefit of me, or is that for the benefit of them, or is that for the benefit of us? That result that I want to see produced. That begins to inform the quality and the nature of the conversation itself. If it's solely about me, what's going to be happening there is, my ego is going to be getting in the way, and I'm going to be organizing everything around right and wrong, good and bad. This is serving me. And if it's not serving me, you're going to feel it energetically. If it's all about you, then what's going to begin to happen is I will start to collapse my boundary state. But if it's about us, co-creating a future state, then there's going to be kind of an interesting dialogue that comes into play. And dialogue here has to do with dialogos. You take the word dialogue apart, dialogos, around ideas, dyad, around logos, ideas. So you're now beginning to explore the ideas, the possibilities of what can occur out there in the future. So keep in mind that the purpose of any communication is to produce a result. You want to be clear about what's the result that you're trying to produce. Who's the beneficiary of that result? What does it make possible?
Got it. And then a follow-up to that as well. Do you believe the meaning of our story changes as we change? And how should that affect the way we tell it?
Does the meaning of the story of our stories change as we change? It probably will because we're bringing a different perspective. If I'm changing, yeah, I'm by definition occupying a different place, and that different place gives me a different vantage perspective. So I'm seeing things a little bit differently. And if I see things differently, how I describe something determines how I experience it, and how I experience it generates behavior. That description process is a meaning generator. And when I begin to change the meaning of something, I begin to feel differently about it. And as a consequence of feeling different, you're likely going to see a different behavior at some point in time.
Got it. Understood. Thank you, Blaine. Lots of follow-ups here. And then let's go ahead to some of our guests here on stage. One of the fan favorites here is Allie. What do you got for us today?
Hey, how you doing, Blaine?
Hey, Allie, good to hear your voice.
Thank you. You as well. I apologize. I only heard about half of the session, but everything I heard was incredible. So my question, my takeaway is that some of the most powerful connections can happen when we share our story before we feel fully confident or ready. And I'm curious what has helped you or those that you've mentored push through that vulnerability and that subconscious fear of being seen or judged.
Okay. Courage does not precede movement. Movement generates courage. So I'll just kind of, position that as a takeaway around this. I'm never going to be fully prepared, I guess, in one sense. It would be one way to think about this. But I want to be in a position where I'm taking action. And this is where having a clear identity or identification around what's the possibility I'm trying to produce? What's the result I'm trying to bring into reality? That clarity of focus, that clarity on outcome, in the language that I use in the work that I do with my clients, it's what's the for the sake of what? What's the compelling for the sake of what that makes a difference that you can't not have? That sort of a thing. So people will move because one of two states exist. One is it's too unpleasant to stay where I am, so I've got to move. The problem with that is it doesn't make any difference which direction I move as long as it's away from the discomfort. The other reason is because the future state is so attractive, I can't not move. So I move in that direction. Now, ideally, you'll have both pieces in place at the same time. A compelling force to move away from something that is distasteful or not satisfying any longer, but a directional pull towards something that is desired. And that's where the story can come into play here. So you can use it as a catalyst. This is how I got here. That's the story. The transformational piece of that is, and here's how I'm learning. Here's the lessons I've learned that are going to compel me to move into this new state that I desire. So there's that push me, pull me sort of a dynamic that starts to come into play.
You are just so wonderful. I appreciate you.
You bet, Allie. Thank you for saying so. You are too, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you as always, Allie. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to your other favorite here, Gigi. What do you got for us today?
Hello, happy Wednesday, and Ben, thank you for doing this. I have two questions.
Yes.
When it comes to stories, how important is the story we tell ourselves, and how does that guide us? Let's say I go in a room, I know there's someone that I have an opinion about, and I go in with that attitude. So how is that the internal plays the external and vice versa? That's the first question.
Okay. So the answer to that is we are always telling ourselves a story about who we are and where we belong. Who am I? Where do I belong? These are terminal stay resident. I mean, I'll go all the way back to the operating system DOS world. Yeah. There are programs that boot up when the computer starts called terminal stay resident programs, TSRs. And for human beings, those two of the TSRs are the questions that seek answers. Who am I and where do I belong? They are stories. Who I am, how I define who I am, is a story that is made up. It's my belief systems. It's my, my history, the family of origin. I mean, you know, all of that ancestral stuff that kind of comes into play, as well as scholastically and societally, what's contributed to my sense of self. Where I belong, that also comes into play here. That has to do with, you know, psychogeography. And we will organize our behavior around those two dimensions, who I believe I am and where I think I belong. So they are stories. The key here is that they are made up. Everything is made up in that context. So an increase in my awareness about the existence of these two elements, you know, and the fact that they are made up, gives me a possibility to begin to create a different storyline. I can change who I am. I can change the story about who am I. I can change the story about where do I belong. Those sorts of things start to come into play here with an increase in awareness that is fueled by a desire for a different possibility, a different future state.
Awesome. And my second question, which is kind of tied into this, I think David said something like the habit that help you arrive here are not always the habit that will keep you growing. So my question is, when we, let's say, arrive in our story, what or how should we treat that story in our mind to keep making progress and not fall into the trap of being comfortable?
Yeah, that's great. Well, Marshall Goldsmith, I think, you know, said, "What got me here won't get me there," and that is actually very true. If we're not experiencing, and this is part of the transformational storytelling, transformational storytelling requires discomfort in the process. Discomfort in the context of I'm learning something new about myself, about how to do things, about what to do, about where to interact, those sorts of things. I want to continuously put myself in positions of being uncomfortable. Yeah, when I find myself settling, and this is where the whole notion of drifting starts to come into play here. I start settling in. I start, you know, being inattentive to that desired future state and what it requires for me to actually, you know, have, do, or be it. One of the surest telltales that I can think of about the fact that what got me here habitually will not get me where I want to go, but I seek comfort. The human organism seeks comfort. I mean, and this is true just about of everything on the planet, I think. We seek comfort. We don't particularly go out of our way intentionally to seek discomfort, yet discomfort is the only place where growth occurs. So I want to begin to train myself from a habitual perspective to be uncomfortable, to seek out those things that challenge me, to seek out those things that kind of put me on edge a little bit. You know, a question that I've used in my life, you know, for the last literally almost 40 years, has to do with, if this doesn't feel uncomfortable or scary, is there value in me doing it? If it feels uncomfortable or if it feels scary, what's being called to be, you know, what part of me is being called out? How can I work with this? Because it's an energy. Scary is an energy. Uncomfortable is an energetic dynamic that's calling on a different part of me to come to life. So I start to pay attention to that.
Thank you. I'll pay attention now. You click something. Speaking of stories, so thank you.
You bet, Gigi.
Awesome. Thank you, Gigi, as always. And next up, we got Colleen. Colleen, what do you got for us today?
Blaine, happy Wednesday. Amazing session so far. You've got such an incredibly successful business, relationship. I'm wondering how you apply kind of the same leadership principles that you have in business with some of the most important relationships in your life. I feel like the greatest leaders, they have those close relationships and they're able to maintain them well. Mm-hmm. Do you have particular principles that you utilize in business and personal?
One size fits all in this case, Colleen. It really does. Yeah. I learned a long time ago that what works in life tends to work all across life. So in my personal relationship, I'll go back to a question that I was working with, answering Marco Antonio's question here. How do I want people to feel about themselves when they're in my presence? That's applicable in my business. It's also applicable in my personal life. How do I want my wife to feel about herself when she's in my presence? I want her to feel respected. I want her to feel seen. I want her to feel heard. I want her to feel safe. Those sorts of things kind of come into mind. So I organize my behavior, my conversations, my energy, in service of those outcomes. Um, and those are experiential outcomes. They're not necessarily, I want to go see a specific movie, so we're gonna that sort of a thing. But I also do the same thing in my business life. How do I want to have the clients that I'm working with experience themselves? So there's transferability there. Um, my kids don't care that I'm the CEO of my company. My grandkids certainly don't care that I'm the CEO of my company. They just want me. So how do I show up? That's kind of where this all comes down to.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing that.
You bet, Colleen.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. Looks like we just had David join the stage as well. If you're able to ask your question, David Gray, thanks for joining the stage. And then, David, the unmute button's in the bottom bottom left-hand corner for you on your side. Oh, good. Looking like some technical difficulty. I'm going to bring up Nick for a question. Typically our moderator, but Nick, you're in the question set today, which I absolutely love. What question you got for us today?
I love it. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Blaine, as always. Blaine, when it comes to transformational storytelling, both as a speaker yourself, let alone and all the clients, entrepreneurs, and executives that you mentor, where do you see people that create the most effective balance between communicating confidence and creating credibility within the audience, especially, and balancing let me rephrase, having a healthy harmony with what is ego as well? I would love to hear your take on this, especially when it comes to people that are really organizing and creating the foundation for some of their keynote speeches.
That's a great question, Nick. Essentially, what we're talking about, I think, is when I go up on stage, as an example here, we're looking at presence. How do I presence myself? So before I ever get in the room, and I'm going to go back to something I've talked about a couple of times here. What's the experience I want the audience to have of themselves while I am speaking? So that begins to, a couple of things happen here. One, it begins to shift my energetic focus, and that shift is away from me, concern about, am I going to do a good job? Am I competent? I mean, all of these things that kind of come into people's minds when they're positioning themselves to speak. When those conversations are going on, it's all about me at that point in time. And if I've got any question about my competency or my ability or whatever it might be, it's going to show up energetically. If the focus is on the audience and I'm clear about the experience that I want them to have while we're in this dialogue together, when this presentation is going on, I move it away from myself, and now I can take a stand in service of that outcome. So anytime I start to move into service, I begin to move away from doubt. And when I'm moving into service, by definition, I'm competent. By definition, I have something to offer. By definition, it's going to be accepted. Those sorts of things start to get answered and checked off. So it's more of a mental framing before I ever get on the stage. And then when I'm on the stage, I take a couple of deep breaths, look around, and just start. I don't do a whole preamble. I just jump in.
I love it. Very insightful as always, Mr. Blaine, and appreciate you always going the empty mile, not the extra mile, in terms of sticking on and being of service to our community. And Mikey, I will pass it back to you to help close things out.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mike.
There you go, Mike.
Okay, perfect. My headphones died right when Nick was doing that, which was fantastic timing. Perfect. Fantastic. Obviously, we'll close out with that being the last question. Thank you, Nick, for jumping in here, being on the question side rather than moderator side. Blaine, as we close things out here, where can people find you? How they connect with you? If you can leave us with that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, easiest is on. I'm all over the place on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, Instagram. You can go to my website, blainebartlett.com. You can also go to leader.blainebartlett.com/SOBE community. That's my leadership community. And I see that Gigi has put this up on the screen here. So those would be probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me. You can DM me directly at bbartlett@avatar-resources.com as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Blaine. And for those that want to obviously see Dave, connect with him in person as well, be sure to join the text community at 949-298-2905 or text him directly at david@dmeltzer.com. Catch him in Atlanta tomorrow, San Diego, Los Angeles, and then South Dakota. Obviously, he is continuing to be on tour, traveling 200 plus days a year. Blaine, thank you as always. We appreciate you. Thank you for the Q&A. Absolutely fantastic as always. Thank you, Gigi, as always to you as well. Take us home.
Hey! 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 Oh, hey! Wanna know where David's gonna be? Get invites, updates, and community. When he's in your city, you won't miss a thing. Just text the number, let your phone ring, 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 ring. 949-298-2905. That's 949-298-2905. Events, connection, and opportunity. All in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. 949-298-2905. That's 949-298-2905.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words: say thank you.